So, guys, what's going on? I hope you guys are well. I hope you guys are staying safe. I hope everything's good wherever you are. Guys, yesterday we had obviously some fights, which I want to talk about. Blair Cobbs and Alexis Rocha. Alexis Rocha destroyed Blair Cobbs. And there was a lot of hype around Blair Cobbs. He did a lot of talking. I looked into a little bit of Blair Cobbs prior to the fight. Looking at a few fights, and to be honest with you, I didn't even have to look at some of his fights. I just had to look at his age. I just had to look at when I've realized he's 33 years of age. He's a 33-year-old prospect. I realized that when a guy's 33 years of age and he's not really broken up to the top level of boxing, and he's a guy still coming through, what that tells me is, unless the guy stayed an amateur a long time, generally he's not going to be a top tier pro. Very few fighters get to the age of 33 and crack the top. And if they're still coming through, they're not a prospect. They're still a prospect like Blair Cobbs was. Generally, that's a telltale sign of the guy's not that great. Look, I think the fight was what it was. I think Cobbs came out. He has a good style. He has a good southpaw. I wouldn't say he's slick, but I think he tried to box smart for the first couple of rounds. Alexis Rocha seemed like he had the power out of the two, and it was kind of like breakdown job. He was breaking him down, and he kind of battered him, but he looked quite impressive. Alexis Rocha, he actually looks like quite a good fighter, and for me. For me, he looks quite dangerous, Alexis Rocha. And he's definitely within the mix of an Ennis. I wouldn't say he's on the level of Ennis Ortiz, but I definitely think he's in the mix with Conor Ben, Mickinson, Avanesi, and these type of guys. I definitely think Alexis Rocha is in the mix. I think Blair Cobbs just... I felt like Blair Cobbs was fighting a very negative... trying to avoid him and trying to box carefully. But, I don't think he had any power. He had no power whatsoever, and Alexis Rocha was just breaking him down, waiting for the opportunity to land that left hand of his. And as soon as he landed an uppercut, he was all over the place, and effectively the fight was over from that point. I just don't think Blair Cobbs offered anything in terms of power. I don't think Blair Cobbs really... he offered anything, to be honest. And I just think that Alexis Rocha kind of broke him down, sweeped him up, battered him, towards the latter part, and then just took him out. I think it was a fair stoppage by the referee. I think Cobbs was out of there, and it's one thing. It's one thing. Listen, it's one thing being a loudmouth and being a guy that sells yourself, but you've got to be able to fight. A 33-year-old guy that really, for me, obviously didn't have the goods. A lot of people were raving and talking about him, but, a 33-year-old that's coming through still generally tells you what you need to know. Very few 33-year-olds go and reach the top when they're still trying to make their way. And I don't know much about Blair Cobbs' amateur record. I doubt he had a stellar amateur career. So it's not like a Lomachenko, a guy that, started late. But, those guys reach the top very quickly. Someone like Joe Joyce, who was a silver medalist and, who's climbing the ranks very quickly. But I don't really, with Blair Cobbs, it was kind of just like, good promote. He was promoting himself. He was getting himself known. But as soon as he stepped in the ring with somebody that actually could fight, it was a case where he got totally beat down and exposed, to say, because Alexis Rocha is not an Errol Spence. Alexis Rocha is not a Crawford. You've not been beat by a top brass guy. You've been beat by a guy that's also kind of coming through like yourself, and he's been beat quite soundly from that fight. He was quite beat down. I think he destroyed him, really. In the end, he destroyed him, and I'm not that convinced about Cobbs. I think of Rocha, though, I think he's definitely a good fighter. He definitely can fight. I would like to see Alexis Rocha against Michael Mickinson. I think Mike Mickinson as well. Not the best fighter to watch. He has got some skills. But I do think Alexis Rocha on that performance, I think I would favor Rocha against Mickinson, because the problem Mickinson's going to have is Mickinson has a very amateur type style, in the sense that he's a good fighter. He's a good fighter. He's got skills, but he's literally got not much power. He's gotten much power. I know we were saying in his post fight with IFL that, he says that he's all wrong for Virgil Ortiz. Virgil Ortiz has got serious power. He hits very, very hard. And I don't really think Mickinson has got the power to keep someone like Ortiz off. And that's the problem someone like Mickinson's going to have. Listen, I wanted him to beat Ortiz, but, being realistic, I didn't think he stood a chance, to be honest. And the performance that he gave on Saturday kind of reaffirms, I don't really think he would have beaten Ortiz. But again, until he really... I think a good fight for Mickinson would be Avanesian here in the UK, if they can make that fight. But the problem is, I feel like that for Avanesian would be a step back also, because who is Mickinson really? He's not done a lot. But, Mickinson has now built his profile a little bit. If Avanesian can't get a Thurman, he can't get some of the big names, maybe a fight with Michael Mickinson makes sense, here in the UK. I think Mickinson would take that fight without question. I would favor Avanesian to win. I just think Avanesian, again, is strong. And I don't really think... The problem I have with Mickinson is the power. I don't think he's going to be able to keep these top guys off. I think that's the problem that Mickinson may have when he steps up level. I'm not sure he has any kind of power to keep these top guys off. You have to have some sort of power. It's all right being a good boxer, but you have to have some kind of power or some kind of sting in your punches to be able to keep these top level guys off. Otherwise, they'll just walk straight through you. It doesn't matter how skilled you are. And unfortunately for Mickinson, I don't really think he has much power whatsoever. And I think that's going to be his downfall, especially in the welterweight division. We know in the welterweight division, there's some real killers in that division. And I don't know whether Mickinson is that guy. I might listen. I hope he is, and as a British guy, I hope he does go all the way. I even think someone like Conor Benn, although I think he gives Conor Benn some trouble, I think Conor Benn, again, might walk through him, because I think Conor Benn's got speed, power, he's got everything. Whereas I think Mickinson just kind of, he's a slick guy, got good skills, but I'm not sure against the real top guys he's going to cut it, unfortunately. And we have to wait and see. Let's wait and see. I don't really want to write somebody off because he hasn't really been in there with a top tier guy. And if he goes in there with a top tier guy and proves himself, then, my opinion changes, of course. We just got to wait and see and give him the opportunity. I think it's always fair to give somebody an opportunity that hasn't been tested and wait to see how he gets on. Like I said, I think a fight with Alexis Rocha would make a lot of sense for Mickinson. I definitely think Mickinson's next fight has to be against someone that's a step up, has to be against an Avanesian or Alexis Rocha. If I was Mickinson, I would chase the Avanesian fight. Because Avanesian is highly ranked. He's a European champion. Alexis Rocha is a bit of an unknown. If Mickinson beats Avanesian, he's probably guaranteed a title shot down the line. And it would do a lot more for his profile and credibility. Fighting someone like Alexis Rocha is very dangerous. And if he loses to Avanesian and puts up a good fight, I feel like his stock will still go up. If he loses to Alexis Rocha, it's a long way back, because Alexis Rocha for me is not as highly rated as Avanesian, even though I think Alexis Rocha could give Avanesian hell. I think that would be a horrible fight for Avanesian. I think Alexis Rocha could, do some damage, because the difference is with Alexis Rocha and Mickinson is Alexis Rocha can punch. You can tell he's got spite in his punches, whereas I don't think Mickinson has. David Avanesian also won in a one-round fight. I think enough's enough with Avanesian. I think we need to see him tested. We need to see him in there with some credible guys now. I think we've seen him against these type of level of opponents, and he's obviously too good. I do think that a lot of people are overrating Avanesian, and making him out like he's some kind of monster. He beat Josh Kelly. Kelly was never a top-tier fighter. He was a hot prospect coming through. Kelly was basically like an Alexis Rocha, like a Conor Benn. He was still finding his feet. He was coming through in the game, and I feel like the British public have kind of made this guy out to be some kind of monster without him actually being tested. against the top guys. People are acting like, Avanesian beat a Keith Thurman or a Danny Garcia or those type of guys. He beat Josh Kelly. And people are making out like he's the best thing since sliced. I think he's a decent fighter, don't get me wrong, but I think people are making him out to be something he's not. That's just my opinion. I don't think he's as good as what some people are making him out to be. Remember, this is a guy that got beat by a washed up Lamont Peterson. I know Carl Greaves said that, Avanesian wasn't a natural welterweight at that point. But again, really, who's he really fought after that? He fought Laranja. These ain't top tier welterweights. Then he fought Kelly again, a hot prospect, really. These aren't top tier welterweights. He hasn't beaten anybody of note or anybody at the top tier of the welterweight division. Even someone like a Danny Garcia who's kind of past his best on the way out. He hasn't even he's not beaten anyone of any kind of level. So to make out like this guy is some kind of monster and everybody's avoiding him, I don't see. I just think people look at him and think, what have we got to gain? Like, what has Keith Thurman got to gain fighting Avanesian? He hasn't got anything to gain. And really, Keith Thurman would be massive favourite to beat Avanesian. So it's more kind of like, it's not even a risk and a reward. It's more like guys are looking at him thinking, what do I gain? The top guys are looking at him thinking, what do I gain from fighting Avanesian? What does anyone gain from fighting Avanesian? Nothing, really. Nothing. So, like I said, in 2008, for me, his last credible opponent, for me, was Lamont Peterson. Right? And Lamont Peterson beat him. UD'd him. And Lamont Peterson was washed up and at the end of his career. If you look at the Lamont Peterson's fights after that, he got knocked out by Sergey Lipnets and stopped by Errol Spence and then stopped by Sergey Lipnets. So it clearly shows you Lamont Peterson was at the end of the road when he fought of Avanesian. He still couldn't beat him. So I personally think that Avanesian's a good fighter, but I do think some people are overrating him. And I definitely think someone like Alexis Rocha could beat Avanesian. I think that would be a good fight. I think Rocha's a very good fighter. Blair Cobbs, no, I think jury's out for me. And it was out before the fight as well. 33-year-old prospect, that tells me all I need to know. Prospects in the game of boxing are like 24, 22, 23-year-olds. 33-year-old prospect, generally, and especially for the lighter weight class as well, is not a good tell sign for me. But anyway, leave your thoughts. Let me know what you think in the comment section below about the fights. What do you think's next for Avanesian? What do you think's next for Alexis Rocha? Were you impressed by Alexis Rocha? Leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Let me know what you think. And I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.